All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to be changing up my PCV setup on my 440i. I've had my PCV delete set up for, I think, going on 2 or 3 years at this point, but like a lot of things, I just like doing stuff. So we're going to change up the setup. Thankfully, Ross Racing Performance keeps coming out with new upgrades and revisions to their parts. So we're going to do a little bit of a refresh and put some of the latest and greatest on my 440i so I can have the cleanest setup possible. So I'll walk you through the parts that I'm going to install, show you how they go in the car, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So the first thing we're going to install is this PCV delete cap. And this is pretty much the main thing that kicked off Ross Racing Performance. However, this is a little bit different. If you guys are looking at this, you're probably thinking, don't you already have a PCV delete? And yes, I do. But the difference is on the back, and you probably still can't tell the difference, but there are actually two tabs on here, and these tabs change the entire way that this cap attaches onto your valve cover. So instead of pressing on and snapping into position like the original Ross Racing PCV delete caps, these actually twist into place. So it's a lot more gentle on your valve cover. It's a lot easier to install and remove. And overall, it's just a nice welcome upgrade to get everything set in place and locked in position exactly how you want it. Now, this does still have set screws, which are highly recommended to install because even though it will lock in place to make sure that the Ross Racing logo is facing you, you're going to want to make sure you use the set screws because some valve covers are a little bit different than others, and the set screws just make sure it gives you that added security that it'll stay in this position even if the hose gets tugged a little bit while the engine is moving and things like that. And as always, this PCV delete is the best solution for your PCV issues. If you're concerned with letting your car idle for a long time or boost pressure damaging your valve cover, this is the solution. This is the way that you fix it on a Gen 1 B58. If you keep replacing the PCV diaphragm, that doesn't actually make it more reliable, that doesn't give it any extra longevity. The PCV diaphragm is just weak, and it's something that will fail if you overwhelm it. So it's not something that wears out over time. The only real fix is to completely get rid of it. So that's why I'm a fan of these products. I got the V1 version, so it just has one hole. The V2 version will have two holes, and that's recommended by Ross Racing Performance if your car is making over 30 PSI on your setup. Now keep in mind the VE kit is also still available as well. This is more of the entry-level option. As you can see here, it looks very different on the PCV cap because it deletes the banjo fitting for much cheaper fittings, but it is also more simplified, so it doesn't give you as much options to set it up with the out-of-the-box catch can, but it is great for people that want to DIY, do their own catch can setup, or run their own lines and fittings however they want, and this comes in at a much cheaper cost. So this is a great option for those of you that don't want to pay the full price for a full kit from Ross Racing Performance, and instead you kind of want to piece together your PCV setup. Now, the next thing we're going to be installing is this oil cap breather kit. And a lot of you guys saw me talk about this a couple months ago, so I know I've already gone through a lot of the details, but just to cover it really quick, this is a great way to add additional venting to your valve cover. Yes, you're already going to get great venting through the PCV delete kit, but you can't ever have too much venting. The whole goal is to minimize the pressure in your crankcase. So the more venting you have means that you'll have lower crankcase pressure, which means you can push your car harder without potentially damaging your internals. So this is a great solution for that, just to add additional venting. There are a couple different options on how this can work. One is just the cap itself, which allows you to basically attach any amount of fittings to the straight AN line that's on it and run any kind of setup you want. There's also a banjo fitting setup, so it adds a 90 and makes it a little bit easier to run dump tubes and things like that. You can also run the oil cap setup with a check valve, and this is really nice because it'll basically make sure it stays closed when you're at idle and under vacuum, but it will open up when you get into boost. So when you're accelerating hard, then it'll start venting. This is cool because you won't have all of the extra smells at idle, you won't have any smoking at idle, but it'll still give you the venting you need when it's most useful. And as we discussed previously, this design is double baffled, so it makes sure that it minimizes any amount of oil mist or vapor you'll have in your engine bay. By going through those baffles, it'll filter out the oil. Now the setup that I got is the check valve with filter setup. So you can see here, it comes with the cap itself. You can see the baffles on the back. So that's all of the filtration that minimizes or pretty much eliminates the oil that would be coming out of the cap. And then on top, it has the fitting that, has the check valve built in, and it comes with the filter. I thought this was actually going to attach onto here with like, a hose clamp or something, but it's actually threaded inside of here. And again, if you look at the top of the filter, you can see it has the Ross Racing logo. So these aren't just a bunch of off-the-shelf parts. These are things that Ross Racing Performance designed themselves and are making for the community. So in order to put this together, a little bit of assembly is required. You basically just screw this on, tighten it all the way down so it seals up on that O-ring, and then we're ready to install it on the car. So let's go ahead and get these parts on the valve cover. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is replace the cap. So in order to do that, I need to remove these set screws that I've already started backing off. Try not to drop it. And then we can go ahead and pry the cap off. I like to go ahead and use a trim tool just to get the leverage I need to pop this off. But it should pop straight up. There we go. And we'll pull all of this out. Now the new cap largely installs the same, except like I said, instead of just shoving it down onto there and snapping it into place, it's actually going to twist and lock into place. So the first thing you want to do is kind of start your set screws in, a couple threads, put them on both corners. I'm also going to put just a little bit of oil on the center O-rings to help them slide into place, because they're going to go right into this hole in the middle. And then if you look inside the cap, you can kind of see where the tabs are. And those tabs are going to locate basically on two tabs that are on these opposite corners, one up here and one down here. So in order to make it fit, we'll line up the hole in the middle, turn it about 45 degrees, I guess, from normal. It goes in like that. And then we're just going to twist, and it locks into place. So that tab basically holds it perfectly. And then we're going to install these set screws just to prevent this from rotating more, because you can see, like on mine, it just can rotate a little bit, and we want it to stay in this position. So the tab on this side and this side keeps it locked. But if you ever want to remove it, you just untwist it and it'll pop straight up. So really nice, clean install. I like this a lot better than the one that snaps into place. And then the last thing we're going to do is install the oil breather cap. So we're just going to remove the stock cap right here, twist that off. And then same as before, we're just going to put some oil on this gasket all the way around. It just helps ensure that it gets a better seal. Also recommended to put some on the surface where it will be sealing. Now this is a very tight fit, and so what Ross Racing has done is he's added an option for a tool that can actually make installation and removal really easy. So this is what the tool looks like. It basically fits on top of the oil cap breather. So you would put it on like this. It only fits one way, so if it's not sliding on, just keep turning it until it drops down. And then on top, it has a 1/2 inch drive. So what you can do, like in my case, is I've got a 3/8 inch drive socket wrench with a 1/2 inch drive adapter on the end. and I can just snap that in here and then twist, and it takes it off that easy. And you can do the same thing for install. So once you've got it located, if you want a little more torque to make sure it's all the way seated, just turn it like that, and that'll make sure that it's snapped in place. Now once you've got all of that installed, we'll go ahead and thread in our fitting with the check valve. It should just tighten down. And then we'll also thread on our filter. And then once you've got all of this tightened down, the job is all done. And yeah, the install was really that simple. All I had left to do was transfer over my VTA hose setup to the new PCV delete cap. And as you can see, everything snapped together and installed perfectly. So I can't recommend this setup enough. A big shout out to Ross Racing Performance for continuing to innovate on our platform and making these new upgrades to make things easier and cheaper for people that are trying to achieve the same results and just have a reliable PCV system, since BMW couldn't figure it out for themselves. But again, a big thank you to Ross Racing Performance for working with me on my build. I will have a link to all the products we talked about in this video in the description below. And I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.